Alright, hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Sorry I've been uploading 2 weeks, but I've been at VES, down at NASA Langley. It was a phenomenal experience. I was so glad that I was able to do it, but it means that I wasn't able to record videos. Essentially, I had to get up at 6 in the morning to run. We were working, and we didn't get back to the dorms until 10 p.m., and then we had 2 hours. Typically, we're working on our project for 2 hours after that, so I slept the other 6, so really no time to record videos. So I'm finally getting around to reviewing Before They're Hanged by Joe Abercrombie, a book I probably finished a week and a half to 2 weeks ago. I just never got the chance to record it. When it comes to, I will talk about what I'm doing next for my channel at the end of the video. So, Before They're Hanged is a very interesting book for me because it is a book that I can recognize as being very good. I think that there's a reason that Joe Abercrombie is lauded as the king of grimdark, and I think it's because, the character work in this book is great. I think the plot is really well sewn together. There are some weak parts, and I genuinely think this is a very good book and very well put together. The problem is I despise the vast majority of it, and I think it's because, well, Joe Abercrombie is the king. He is the king of grimdark, and I have learned that I don't like grimdark. And for long, I didn't quite realize what the difference between grimdark and dark fantasy were until I read this book. Because I like dark fantasy. I like Malazan, which is absolutely dark fantasy. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. There were parts of Memories of Ice that I genuinely had to put down the book and not touch it for several days because there are some scenes like that in this book, especially during some of the sieges. I like dark fantasy. But the problem is I don't like grimdark. And the reason is simply the big difference is the nihilism. In Malazan, there are heroes. There are people who are genuinely trying to do good things, and they'll have flaws, like all heroes do. But there are genuine heroes, and there are genuine villains, and you can tell what the difference is. There are no heroes and villains. There are no heroes in Before They're Hanged. There are no heroes in the first law. They are all bad people, and they are all doing various degrees of bad things, occasionally good things, but not for good reasons. They're all villains. They just have to. Great quote from Terry Pratchett. Everyone's a villain. They just happen to be some of them happen to be on opposite sides, and I genuinely despise that. Just personally, how I like reading is I like to have a hero to cheer for. I like to have a character who is sympathetic and a character who I can feel good about, hoping that they have a good outcome, hoping that they do well. And I don't have that in this book. I really don't. There is an overarching villain, and that I want, that we can tell that needs to be defeated and that I want defeated, but I almost don't want the heroes to win because they're all horrible people and I don't like them. And that's the problem here. Is I can get why some people like that. I can understand why some people would find that enjoyable, but personally for me, I hated it, and it's something that I just could not get over the entire time I was reading this book. Like I said, this is a really good book that I personally despised. And I think that's why it's important, just kind of contextualization, meta thing here, is why, at least for me, it's always important to realize that reviewers aren't preaching gospel. They aren't preaching the truth. And I think it's something that I had to realize it's very important. And I'm sure my audience is very smart. I'm sure you all have figured that out already. But if you haven't, no reviewer is going to perfectly match what a book is. A book is not either good nor bad. It's just the reviewer's opinion. And if you like grimdark, there are people who like grimdark, then you'll like this book. If you hear my criticisms of it and be like, that doesn't affect me at all, I highly recommend this book. This book is amazing. If you like that. If you don't like that, my criticisms of it kind of ring true, not in the quality of the plot of the characters or anything like that, but how the story is structured, then I would steer clear of the First Law trilogy. The Blade itself, there were some characters who I could see becoming heroes. By the second book, they aren't that, and honestly, I don't even think I'm going to continue on to the third. I think this is a series that I'm just like, the first 2 books were good, they were not for me, I'm not going to finish the series, and it's a series that I'm fine not seeing how it ends. So take everything with a grain of salt. Back to the actual review, I guess. There are kind of 3 main storylines. One of them is really solid. I think Glotch's storyline is phenomenal. The North plotline is fine. It's pretty good. I think it suffers a little bit from some pacing issues, and I think that's mostly just because of how segmented it is. I think it doesn't do as well as a segmented story as the other two do. The third plotline is kind of boring. I mean, it had some good moments, but I think it definitely needed to be segmented because there are large stretches where kind of nothing happens. And the thing is that, like, I get it. There are parts of stories where, like, you kind of just want to hang out with the characters. There are numerous times in Wheel of Time where I kind of just want to hang out with the core group while they're traveling. I don't want to hang out with these characters. They're all horrible people, and I don't want to listen to them talk to each other. So that was just a personal critique of the book for me. I think the plot is pretty good. I think the overarching conflict and the various factions and how they're trying to work it is all very well done. I think the world building is decent for this book, but not. And the thing is, like, decent is great for this book. It's just what this book needs. It does not need a Wheel of Time or Stormlight Archive world building, right? I think it's not as good as Discworld, but similar to Discworld, and as you learn what you need about the world as you get there. And there's a lot about stuff about Discworld we do not know. There's a lot about the world that we have no idea about because we never went there. It isn't important, and only the things that are important are revealed to us. And I think it's a very serving the story kind of world building, and I think works for certain books. And I think this is absolutely a book. This is a book where if you like it, you want to spend time with the characters, you want to spend time in the action, you don't want to spend time in the world building. And I think that is a big success of this book. Sometimes less is more with world building. So overall, it's a good book. It's not for me, and so it's gonna. If I were to, this is probably heading straight down. I didn't like the Subtle Knife. I hated this book. So it's probably going down even below that. And Subtle Knife is my worst book of the year so far. But despite it being ranked so low, I do think it is a good book, just not a book for me. I don't have a long spoiler section, but we'll jump to that in a second. All right. For spoiler section, like I said, I don't have a lot to talk about, so I'll kind of just break down the three individual plot lines, I guess. Like, starting with my favorite, I think Glokta's storyline was very well done. I don't like Glokta. I think he's a horrible person, but I can't deny he's a well-written character. And I actually wanted him to succeed a little bit here, and I think that it was kind of funny seeing Glokta, a genuinely horrible person, doing good things because, well, I guess I have to. Oh, I guess we'll stop the racial prejudice because it helps me do my job better. And it's still, I still don't like him. But it was a spot of humor in an overall bleak book, very bleak book. And I thought the pacing was really tight in that storyline. It was the storyline I kept wanting to go back to. More and more in this book, I just wanted to focus on the Docksta stuff with Glokta. And I think it was really well done. I think, like I said, the pacing was perfect. I love the cast of side characters. And I think all of their contributions to the mystery and to the plot was really well done. And honestly, that's where we got a lot of kind of like the magic world building that wasn't just an exposition dump from Bads, which was nice to see kind of what the big threat was, see them up close and personal. And I really liked Glokta's part of this book. It was a part of the book that I really actually enjoyed. The North was, while not the worst part of the book, probably my least favorite. It was a mix. It was a mixed bag. I wouldn't say it's my least favorite, but there were a lot of parts before we get to the Northmen that I really just don't like. I don't necessarily love West as a character, and I don't think he improved for me in this book. The Prince is insufferable, and I hated him every single moment he was in the book. And it wasn't. I didn't enjoy it. I think the early parts where you can tell that this attack is doomed was just kind of, once again, bleak and depressing, and I didn't like it. But the battle was paced well, and once we got to the Northmen, at least the Northmen are funny, and they kind of added that humor towards the end of the book. And I think overall the ending of the Northmen, that huge battle, how it ended up turning out, was great, and it actually provided genuine emotional moments in this book. But overall, it was a mixed bag, and I think the early part of that, the first part before we kind of get to the more Northman stuff, was not really my cup of tea. And unfortunately, the meat and potatoes of the book, kind of, I would say the central, story of the book was by far my least favorite. I didn't like Logan and Frenzo's Fenzo, I think it is. Let's see. Can I turn to a page and find Pharaohs? Pharaohs part of the book. Logan and Pharaoh and Bads. I didn't like their portion of the book. It was kind of slow and meandering, and we kind of crossed the desert for way too long. And like I said, those parts of books are great if you just want to spend time with the characters, learn who they are, just hang out with them. And those parts I don't mind in other book series. The problem is I hate all of these characters and wanted to see as little of them as possible. And the action scenes were great. I think Pharaoh and Logan really made for exciting action scenes, but I didn't like them as characters, and I didn't like listening to any of them talk. I didn't think their chemistry was particularly good. And I honestly, all of the characters in this section, like Logan was probably the least insufferable. He's the closest I think I will get to liking a character in this entire series. But even then, he was kind of just the most bland, right? Mysterious past, and he's not really even trying to atone for it. He just kills things. Like, he was the most bland character there. And so I guess I found him the least offensive. I'm gonna be honest, I didn't like any of these characters. Bats is insufferable. He is just this arrogant idiot. I hated him the entire time. I hated Pharaoh. She was just annoying the entire time we were with her. I didn't get... She has no arc. She gets a little less insufferable for a little bit and then just goes back to being completely insufferable. I don't even remember what the one guy's name is. Luther. Luther was insufferable the entire time. Like, sure, I think he learns something maybe by the end, but I don't really know. Wasn't really convinced. Didn't really like him. And then the other two characters were ranged from I don't like them to they're not even there. So overall, a horrible group of characters to spend time with. At least the action was good. Had some decent set pieces, but overall, the meat and potatoes of this book was horrible. I'm not gonna lie. And that's just and the thing about that is it's not because it's poorly written. It's because I don't like the characters. It's Abercrombie having a character-centered, focused storyline with some great moments of action in between. But if you don't like the characters, you're not going to like that section. And I think that's the big thing, is you have to like Grimdark. You have to be able to like Grimdark characters. And if you do, this book is great. That last section is still a little slow, I'm not going to lie. And I still don't think you would necessarily love the early parts in the North. But at least you have the characters you like. And that would definitely bring this up to, I would say, an 8 out of 10. A really good book. And I think the Glokta parts bring it even higher. If you like the characters, this is a solid 8 out of 10 book for you. Maybe even 9 out of 10, depending on how much you really like these characters. For me, this is probably a 4. I want to put it lower, but I did like Glokta's sections. So that's pretty much all I can say about this book. It's great if you love Grimdark. It is horrible if you don't. But when it comes to what's next for our channel, next I will definitely be reviewing The Lies of Locke Lamora. Whiplash from going from a book I really did not like to a book I genuinely love. Lies of Locke Lamora is a contender for one of my favorite books of the year. So I'll be getting that review out to you very soon. And then tell me in the comments, I recently for my birthday got myself a copy of The Long Halloween and Dark Victory. These are two of my favorite comic runs ever. I love these comics, and I don't typically, I've read a lot, I do read comics quite regularly, but I don't review them on my channel. So tell me in the comments down below if you would like me to review The Long Halloween and Dark Victory. I could do them together, I could do them in separate, just say what you want down in the comments, but that's a potential video in the future. Currently, I am reading the first book of the Sun Eater series, Empire of Silence. I also got the Poppy War from the library, and finally, I don't even remember. I got the next Wheel of Time book, so I'm super excited to jump into that. So probably finish the first Sun Eater book, jump back into Wheel of Time. I'm so excited to be done with the slog, almost to the end. Then we'll go Poppy War and whatever. Oh, and I got Rage of Dragons from the library, so we'll read that whenever I kind of get around to it. So it's on the list. But thank you so much for watching the video, and I will see you next time. Goodbye.